Please join me in welcoming architect Mahesh Bangad for the interview session.
I think when I read your title of your talk, I thought something contextual has to be worn as well. When you're talking so much about context. Before we delve into what you showed, I would like to. Audience doesn't really know what background you come from in terms of your education and how has that sort of reflected into your practice. So Teh did his bachelor's from NUS Singapore and went on to do his master's at MIT Massachusetts, and got influenced a lot by theory in architecture, and which is what was reflected in his presentation as well. And he came back and then started his practice somewhere around 1990s.
Yep.
All right, in 2000. 2000, right. So with that as a background, with what you saw in Singapore and when you went into MIT as well, and when you learned about theory and architecture, what do you think? What was the defining moment of deciding what sort of triggered in you that this is how I'm going to start my practice, or this will be the base of my practice?
I think what I find interesting is that when I went to MIT is basically a science-based institution. So the issue I went there is not at time. When I graduated, I worked for a short while, and at that point of time, my girlfriend, now my wife, decided to study her abroad at Harvard. So, one of my ways is
for you to go there.
to go there and spend more time with her. So that's basically the whole reason, without knowing what I'm really going to get in. Of course, MIT is an interesting institution. I thought I should be able to learn something. But the interesting part when I went there is that there were a few very important professors. And the issue, one of the required courses when you are studying there for research is that you have to study scientific theory. Scientific theory, like Karl Popper, Lakatos, and Kuhn, and all these things. So I was trying to see, hey, what are all these things going to do with architecture design, you see. And I spent a lot of time with the professor. At the end of the day, I realized that there is a certain approach that you can translate so-called scientific research, philosophy, and all that into how we start to look at architecture.
How it manifests into architecture, built form as well.
Yes. So with that's why one of the very important writer is actually Lakatos, where you talk about research program. So the research program is just like when you go to school, your teacher will tell you have to do this, do that, do all the site analysis. But that itself is the research program.
Right.
But on the other hand, is that it's just like you are using ChatGPT, doesn't mean that you have all these things, you will get the correct solution. So in the sense that we find a lot of time trying to understand that, and at the end of the day, it's basically wisdom and practice.
Wisdom and practice.
Right. And after I came back to Singapore, I actually worked in this firm called William Lim Associates. They're basically the pioneer in terms of the very avant-garde people, and I worked there for 10 years, implementing one of the hotel at the end of the day before I start to set up my practice. The design of the hotel also very interesting. It's a collaborating firm between my firm, William Lim Associates, at that point of time, together with another artist-based type of a designer. It's very much like Moon, who is artist.
And we were lucky to see that work as well. Architect Gadre invited William Lim to Pune.
Okay.
And he had shown this hotel project to the Pune audience as well. Now I know that you have contributed to that as well.
I worked on that project actually through a very long gestation period of 10 years. So my journey is that a sidetrack to a lot of young practitioners or aspiring architects is that you need to spend a number of years for apprenticeship.
You have to work with somebody for a long time.
For a long time, and to gain the design skill set. And also, practice, it's not really only about design, it's also about business, about contract, about law. It's actually a whole complex array of things that you have to know. So sometimes if you are too eager to start too soon, you may make a lot of mistakes, and this day mistake can be costly. So I would rather advise the young upstart is to basically work with good people, knowledgeable people, acquire the several aspects. One is the design aspect, the other one is that the practice aspect, the contract aspect. So when you feel that you are ready, I mean, I happen to be a examiner in the panel examination for Singapore. We look at it for people, usually people will pass the exam after 5 years of working and not 2-3 years and whatnot.
They don't suddenly make you an architect. They make sure that you work 5 years and then.
Not that then only you acquire that knowledge.
The knowledge.
So during the exam, during the interview and all that, you profess that you are ready. You are ready. So I would rather say that be patient. Architecture is a long profession. We always talk and joke among ourselves. Those very successful architects, they actually live very long.
Yes. Yesterday we were discussing this.
You have to look at that long time trajectory and how
the Oscar Niemeyers and the I.M. Pies as well.
Give yourself that time, that space.
Give that time for yourself.
And give yourself that growth. Another thing is that the architecture profession is also a very slow profession. So if you come out, you start to compare your salary with the banker, the lawyer, the doctor, you feel lose out, But on the other hand, if you have the passion, you have the interest, I think that journey will reward you tremendously. I mean, in many sense. So trust me or trust whichever of my esteemed colleague here.
Right.
They will tell
All
you
of them
that
have shown that in the last 2 days.
Yeah.
I believe, very importantly, like you said, that time is very important.
Yeah.
So when you started your practice, you also parallelly started teaching at NUS as well.
Yeah, I started, I always like sharing ideas. So teaching is one of the platform where you can share idea. And on top of that, it's not really sharing. I also learn tremendously from the student I interact with. Often the case, they ask me questions that at time I dare not ask myself. And at time I also don't have answer. So with that, you will learn in the process. And basically it's a mutual exchange. It's a mutual exchange.
Right, but with the subjects that you've been teaching and the work that you've been showing, right from the Emerald Hill bungalow to looking at 137 Market Street, how has sustainability been a part of your work? Because I look at it as more of a passive sustainable approach rather than an actively saying that I'm going to design a green building. Yep. What has been the genesis of the design with you?
You see, for me, I always feel that, all these buildings were made by labor. It's not accidentally happen. And there are so much energy,
putting in a lot of energy through that.
All these things, maybe by different people and whatnot, the thinking processes and whatnot. And this trace, cannot be just simply erased. Since I see a building, 137, if I need to demolish it, it's within 2 weeks, it's gone. And things are completely erased. So I felt that there's a certain passion and a certain respect of the energy that people have put in. So with that, is there a way for you to really
respect that energy as well?
And on top of that, you sort of like add some new thing into it. Like in history, we always add, we always change, we always alter, and function change. And on the other hand, that's what I thought is important. But on that count is that the issue on the scientific term is that the embodied carbon become important. So when you keep a building, you actually kept a lot of embodied carbon. As compared to you try to saying that you want to do a sustainable building and you look for
then you break down the building and then you lose that embodied carbon.
And on top of that, you bring in all the new technology, air cons and all sorts of things, making sure that your air con is slightly perform better, but on the other hand, you still consume hell lot of energy. So I think that's a dilemma. But on the other hand, with that passion, to go through all these things, it's not. You think about it, next day you get the answer. You're under the pressure of the client. Hey, you tell me that you can do this.
It's a long process.
Show me. What can I get out of it? But on the other hand, the wisdom and the understanding of the market, understanding of the so-called the real estate market and all that, and what are the crafting and juggling of things to create value. You have to deal with people who are interested in the real estate value, investment. You have to talk to them in that way. If you are interested, talk to a client who is an artist, art collectors. Then the issue you have to find.
Your first house and that your fourth building also made that difference.
So you have to make that connection with that person, and the fella can straight away see what you are thinking about and can resonate and be part of you and buy into your idea. Then the rest is history. If not, it's a
simple job after that. Right?
It's not really a struggling.
Having said that, you used a very important word, craft. And you also in your slides spoke about industrial craft. And your first project actually was about crafting spaces. And then when you moved to your third and the fifth project that you showed about how respectful you were to the existing building and not straight away look at a new project, but add to the existing building or the existing campus. Do you think it comes just from experience, or has some other influences being driving your philosophy or your way of thinking in this, as something from the past or something that you have studied differently that allowed you to look at not always demolishing things and just building over?
I think when I started my practice, the first 5 to 8 years, we were doing a lot of experimentation. You know, when we look, I mean, we never turn away small thing at that point of time. Even a small thing, we will look at it as
big project
as
by
an
itself.
opportunity we can play around, and that build up our skill set in terms of understanding design and in terms of how to resolve conflict in terms of space planning and things like that. And of course, teaching help to allow you to have a much better access onto the array of projects that students are working on. First year, second year, you walk around their studio.
You have that exposure
you have that
at
exposure,
hand, right?
and when you see certain thing, you give you certain bright spot. Then you store it as part of your memory. So when you encounter a problem, maybe some bright spot will be able to help you to gel and solve some of these
That
problems.
becomes a source of
Yeah,
inspiration
yes,
as well, right?
yeah.
So, when I look at 137 Market Street, or when I even looked at the Hill House, what I also looked at was there was a lot of research that went into before you started. The way you started your presentation, also from modernism to postmodernism. My concerns were, as an architect, you mentioned a while ago that you don't really have that much time from the client, that they want a product immediately. So how do you deal with the clients in terms of buying time to negotiate that time with them, so that you do your research and then decide an approach and then finalize your approach of design and then actually design? How do you deal with the clients like
I
that?
think that is a very fantastic question. You know, when a client come to you, they want instant solution. But on the other hand side, when you do a lot of other things, actually we did a lot of job that were not built.
All
not
right.
built.
A lot of unbuilt.
Competitions
I think
and things
most
like
of our presenters
And
yesterday
these
also
are,
mentioned.
These are all the so-called the knowledge that you have gained. You know, an unbuilt project, it doesn't mean it's totally lost. It build up your ability
Abilities, right?
or the skill set. Then when something pop up, you have a baggage, you have a bag of information you can just pull out here and there and reassemble. See? So that's how
Basically,
we...
you have reinforced your armory so good that when you are going to the war with the client, you are already ready with
you're already there.
putting the right things forward. All right. I think we can have one more question, and then I'll ask to the audience to ask maybe. One last question about, and this is a message that I want you to send across, because we discussed yesterday about how the architecture in Singapore has become more commercial, and more or less in the Indian scenario also we're looking at commercialization has taken over. The acute sense of design is getting lost. What do you think, drawing similarities also and drawing parallels, and then also thinking what message in the next 15 years, next 25 years, what sort of approach should Singapore also look at, and moreover what should India look at in terms of their approach?
I think one of the key things that really bother a lot of us is actually environmental crisis. You know, the issue about sustainability is something that is very important. And sustainability is not only about environmental sustainability. There are many aspects of sustainability. Sustainability in terms of lifestyle, sustainability in terms of how even foods are being produced and all that. It's actually a very complex array of spectrums of issues that we are going to look at. So when you look at this, these are the much larger forces that is playing its part. So as far as an architect is concerned, we can only play a role. A role is that we have to be very conscious about resources. So in the sense that we don't have to be, I mean, technically, we don't have to be very extravagant about resources. We have to be very mindful about how to go about using the resources in a meaningful way.
Rafiq mentioned that in the last project that he presented yesterday, about being socially responsible about your role. But do you think the young generation is really getting that sort of knowledge from the field, that they're more conscious towards what you're talking about?
I think that require really the real encounter into the practice world. When you're in the practice world, there are a lot of pressure, and sometimes there are also a lot of market forces. So in the sense that you have to allow yourself some time to think about
right,
what is the right thing for the society.
Maybe that doesn't happen in the classroom. It has to
doesn't
happen on the
Yeah.
on-field.
So in a sense that the architect, as you can see, like even in Rafiq's work, he's very concerned about, eventually deep in him, he's concerned about the community, and a lot of us, we should at the very outset think beyond ourselves. In a sense that, like, you look at even modernism, I
Right.
mean, it's the message is that Corbusier is going to change the world. Rightly or wrongly, that's the motto, and that's how he's going to approach architecture. So in a sense that as an architect, you are laden with much bigger role, much bigger responsibility. So in a sense that you really
Assuming
have to,
that responsibility is very, very important, and
yeah.
knowing that you can create a change and a difference.
Yes,
I
and
think.
take leadership at time. Yeah.
Right, and I think I'll take that message from you that it's very important to get that experience and then assume that responsibility
Correct,
as well.
correct.
Any questions from the audience on that? Anybody wishes to ask something? Otherwise, we'll close with one more takeaway thought from Teh. All right, just one more thing, Teh, because you've come from an experience about 30 odd years with this. Do you think retrofitting as a solution is going to be very important approach towards architecture across the Southeast Asian countries?
You see, if you start to look at the West, I mean, in Europe, everything is kept. And for us, everything is demolished. I mean, if you can really thrive toward that middle ground, where I know in our part of the world, the development pressure, the population growth,
Right.
the urban-rural migration will create tremendous amount of pressure. But on the other hand, on the other hand, there's also a lot of the resources that we can tap on and keep using it. Just like in Singapore, for instance, at this moment, we don't only conserve old building, I mean historical building.
Right.
We start to conserve good modern building. And on the other hand, in terms of the public housing, we are also start to look at how we can do a different type of housing through insertion, through modifications and whatnot, so that the existing structure can be kept.
This conscious approach is very important.
Yes. So I don't think we should straight away look at demolition as merely an instruction to demolish. If you think creatively, there are a lot of things you can play around with what you have.
Right.
So I think the whole issue is that it's about learning the skill set and be humble and be respectful about whatever thing that is already there and how to go about tapping on it and contributing to a better humanity.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's it from Teh now. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Round of applause for him. And
Thank
pleasure
you.
listening to you, Teh. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's time we now invite architect Moon Hoon on the stage to please come up and felicitate architect Teh and architect Mahesh Bangad, so please.